Hey, rookies, and welcome back to the Rookie Farmer Podcast, the home of the dreamers, the schemers, and the hustlers here in the world of small scale agriculture. If you are new here, I am your host. My name is Alec Smith. I'm the farmer, the grower, the delivery driver, CFO, CEO. I wear all the hats here at Crop Culture Farm in New Bern, Georgia. And we have a really cool episode for you guys this week. I sit down with Herb Young of Squeeze Citrus. Now, a lot of times with the podcast, I get the chance to talk with people who maybe someone has put me in touch with, or maybe they've reached out to me and like, hey, I'd love to be on the show. But every now and then I get to interview someone who I've been wanting to talk to for a long time. We get into it in this episode, but I've known about Herb and have heard him speak in the past. And so for almost 4 years now, I have been sort of following the journey of Squeeze Citrus from the beginning and been really wanting to be able to pick his brain, ask him some questions, and really understand a deeper idea of what he is doing and what they have going on down there in South Georgia. And finally have the opportunity. Herb was gracious enough to sit down and talk with me, and we get into all things regenerative. We talk about the importance of feeding the soil, feeding the microbes in the soil, and in his case, even putting that as a priority before making sure that our plants have the proper amendments that they have. But also, we talk a good bit about the importance of nutrient dense food. And what does that mean for our health? What does that mean for our customers? And what does it mean for the plants that we're growing on our farms? Talk about that and so much more. So sit down either on your tractor or in your wash pack or in the drive, wherever you're at, and enjoy this episode where I sit down with Herb Young of Squeeze Citrus. Herb, thank you again so much for sitting down. For a little bit of backstory for those who are listening, I first encountered you and heard about the work that you were doing. I want to say, was it 2023? Is that the year that you gave a talk at the Georgia Organics Conference when we were down in the fairgrounds?
I think it was the year before that.
Oh, in 22?
Yeah, because we skipped you.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, either way, whatever year it was, yeah, I can't even remember exactly which talk it was, but I remember I went in there just as a simple farmhand at the time, didn't have my own farming operation, and heard this guy talk about going from sort of the chemical ag industry to now doing regenerative citrus. And it was just like, this is amazing. This is so cool. And have had an opportunity to sort of from a distance follow what you're doing and see you sort of rubbing elbows with other people I know. And then through Zach with Levity Farm, who was the first guest on our podcast back at the beginning of the year, he kind of got me your contact and sort of got us connected. But for those who are not familiar with you and with your work, give us a little kind of introduction to who you are and what Squeeze Citrus is all about.
So get a real odd background. Spent my entire career in the pesticide industry. 25 years of that was doing field research. I went into marketing and development and sort of heading toward it. Worked on a research farm the last 5 years. And then heading into retirement, I just decided I've got citrus in my yard. I mean, I'm only about 20 miles from the Florida line. So we can grow citrus here carefully. And I thought, that'd be fun in retirement and to grow citrus. So I started researching it. And I thought, I know I've done a lot of I've done some organic research. I think I could grow it organically. And I dove in and started doing the research a year before I planted. And I just absolutely discovered and had a personal experience, a real transformation, realizing that regenerative agriculture, a lot of it is new science. It wasn't around when I was going through college and spent all those years. And I call it ag's best kept secret. It's kind of sad. Believe me, in a 38-year career in the industrial agriculture, I never once heard about regenerative agriculture, even though I was in research and development kind of positions. So I absolutely was fascinating. And so I geared up everything. And since the day my trees went in the ground, which is 4.5 years ago, almost 5 years ago, they've been organic, regenerative. I'm certified in both now. And it's been an awesome experience. And then we'll get into it. Ultimately, the result has been nutrient-dense fruit, which I've since become really passionate about. If we can transform our entire produce system into healthy food, food is medicine. So that really excites me now, and so I'm working to try to make an impact in that arena. After having spent an entire career kind of just on that industrial side where we were oblivious probably to the impact that we were having, sadly.
Yeah, and to not jump ahead too much into the nutrient density side of things, but I just want to say it. I find it very fitting, and obviously, this is sort of pulling the curtain back a little bit on the behind the scenes of the podcast. But yesterday, I did an interview that'll come out at a totally different time, but with an organization here in Georgia that helps with food access, and one of the programs that has really been super beneficial, both for us as a farmer as a farm who's participating in that, but is there like food is medicine program where they're actually able to get federal funding to give people who have, metabolic issues, who are also low income, to actually come to the farmers market and receive the funds that they need to be able to buy that organically grown nutrient dense food. So I love that I was able to sort of get
Awesome.
the
Mhm.
social side of it yesterday, and now we get to talk about the actual nutrient density of the food itself. So I find it I just very serendipitous that it's all worked out this way. An
It's all
interesting question.
connected.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It just it's so integrated. Yeah.
It's almost like there's this giant web of interconnected living things that are all sort of playing off of each other.
Isn't that
Uh,
interesting? And we all go
yeah,
back all the way to the soil,
yeah.
and
How about that?
we didn't realize that. Yeah.
With that, you said something at the beginning about how regenerative, like the science behind regenerative agriculture, is new science. And my question for you is it really, is it truly new science, or is it more of just sort of quantifying and putting scientific language to a more ancestral way of doing things? Because I see in some forms where it truly is new, whether it's like the way we foliar feed or doing whatever, but it's also sort of incorporating things like compost and cover crops that have
Yeah.
been done for, forever.
You caught me. Yeah. It's absolutely not.
Yeah.
It's it's old practices. It's ancestral practices. The quantifying it and documenting the reasons behind what compost does, you know, the microscope and DNA analysis, and I love all that stuff, has now been able to to literally prove and quantify that all those things were legitimate. And that's probably the new side that's really come out in 10, 15 years. And people will say, and it's been developing for a long time. I mean, I wasn't aware of it at all, which I was deep into research and was surprised really that it's there's very little knowledge of it. And I think that's changed a lot in the 5 years since I've been doing this. Now every magazine you pick up's got an article about soil health and a little bit of hint of regenerative. So
Do you think that there was a point from your, because I imagine also in the sort of the research of ag, you probably have some sort of a context of the history of ag. Can you point things back to a moment in which we sort of made that pivot? I mean, I know there's tons of stuff out there talking about it, but made the pivot from sort of more holistically, organically minded to more of the what we call quote unquote conventional agriculture that was the industry that you came from.
oh, yeah. So, I mean, I just listened to everybody explaining it, but I think that that point was, they say at the end of World War II, all the dynamite factories,
Mm,
they were huge and they were looking for something to do with it. And they found out they could simply convert them to nitrogen fertilizer. And so all of a sudden, farmers, had access, pretty cheap access to this fertilizer that would make everything grow like crazy and turn greener. And we're finding out just now that pushed growth is not necessarily a good thing. I mean, we can grow crops fast. And
yeah.
what I found out analyzing them, that doesn't mean there's much, if any, nutrition in 'em. So you can fertilize and grow them fast. And that's what, unfortunately, that's what we're all eating. So that was the first big change. That was the pivot. So end of World War II, 1945. Then the second, I saw it happen. I was working in the field as a tech rep, and when Roundup came out, all of the farmers, it simplified so many things. And when there were Roundup ready crops, farmers, the typical farmer in Georgia and row crops, was a father son doing 500 acres. All of a sudden, they could do 1,000 acres. So that was in the early 90s or something like that. That was the second pivot that allowed everybody just to get bigger
Yeah.
and do it. And that required them to be more industrial, bigger equipment, doing it faster, less time in the field, less boots on the ground.
It's really interesting that you said it was the 90s because I obviously I was born in the 90s, so I wasn't really cognizant of all that. But it's just interesting to say that it not only is it just the access to the chemicals, but then in the particular ones like things like glyphosate and Roundup, and then the subsequent ability to have Roundup ready things. How it's almost goes hand in hand of you have the access to the products, and then that changes the way that you grow, which then requires you to have new products, which then continuously changes the way that you grow, and it's just sort of this compounding cycle. Yeah, it's just really fascinating to understand, because, and that's one of those things that I was really curious about. Is I'd say for the majority of people who aren't really in the industry, don't know. Most people would say like, yeah, I mean, we pretty much have grown this way for forever, right? And realizing that this really is a very new, unnatural way of farming.
But there was never a plot behind it. I mean, it was not like somebody decided, oh, we're going to push this nitrogen fertilizer on farmers. It was, farmers tried it and
Yeah,
had access to it, and they thought, wow, this is amazing. This is an innovation. And it was the
absolutely.
same thing when Roundup. I mean, we were amazed at how Roundup controlled all the weeds that we'd been unable to control forever. And it changed things. It was such a boom to allow growers, everybody. I mean, this is unfortunately the way our system's built, that everybody's just paid for yield. I mean, that's
Mhm.
productivity is based on yield. And so both of those things allowed people to grow more, bigger, faster. And it's the farmers, of course, they accepted it. Yeah, it was. It appears to be better, and it's like everything else. Sometimes it takes 10, 20 years, maybe 50 years to discover what the negative consequences might have been.
Yeah, and at that point, we may be so steeped in a way of doing things that that's a big ship that you have to try to turn,
Oh,
with that.
they're locked in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the system's in place. I hope we can change it. I really do. And now we have enough technology that we can identify and find out. These crops we're growing, they're low in all the vitamins and nutrition. And I mean, we'll go to the grocery store and we buy this produce. It doesn't have any flavor. It's terrible. Bought a watermelon 2 weeks ago that I actually threw away. It's my favorite fruit. It wasn't it wasn't ripe. It didn't have any flavor. It was terrible. I keep buying citrus in the grocery store thinking, okay, this is what the competition is. It's not edible
Yeah.
compared to mine. It's unbelievable, the flavor and the taste. And therefore I know the nutrition that comes from it. So same with, I'm sure, all the people that, I've gotten to where I just tell people when they ask, what do I do? And I say, go to a farmer's market,
Mm.
buy from somebody that you know. It's more likely to be way beyond organic. It's it's going to be regenerative. It's going to be grown by somebody who cares about it. And I would assure people it's going to be 3, 4, 5 times more nutritious than anything you can buy in a grocery store. Even in the organic aisle, it's going to be better. Go buy it from a farmer.
Yeah, absolutely. And the new reality is that unless it's a reseller, which unfortunately they still seem to plague a lot of the smaller farmers markets sort of out in the more rural areas, someone going to the big state farmers market and buying things that's been, brought up from Mexico or somewhere else, and and doing that, and But if you're buying from an actual farmer who grew it and picked it the day
Yeah.
before, most of our farmers markets now, at least around here, are requiring sort of a minimum barrier to entry. And for most of that, the minimum is certified naturally grown, which is essentially organic, with just less red tape and a
Yeah.
little less expense. And so not only is it like you have a better opportunity and a better chance, but like for instance, our market in Athens, it's guaranteed. I'm not setting foot on the market's
That's
grounds
great.
unless I have my certification. And so you can guarantee that every piece of vegetable, every cut of meat that you're going to get, every egg that you're going to take home, is all going to at least be that. And for what that's worth, hopefully, with those constrictions that we have with what we can and can't use and the way that we're supposed to manage our farms is pushing us, guiding us, ending us up in the place that is regenerative. Back to the taste thing. One of my favorite things is to just like tell people at our booth, like, just taste it, just try it, and like, raw,
Yep.
whatever. Like, we have a big basket of green beans right now, and people are like, oh, I'm like, just eat one, like, just grab one and eat it, and people are like, what? And they eat one, like, oh wow, they're so delicious, and
But you got to realize too, not every farmer's market's that way. You live
yeah,
in Athens. That's like an organic mecca.
yeah,
And I go to a farmer's market down in Tallahassee, Florida, and there's one guy there that's the farmer himself.
wow,
And he has a double booth. It's stacked to the roof with vegetables. And I thought, well, I'll go real early. And, makes, I got there at 8:30, opened at 8. There was a line, 15 people long, waiting to get into his booth. And none of the other people were selling. I mean, they're the ones you're describing,
hmm,
they just have a booth and they bought cases of produce somewhere and were selling it. But this is the guy that's the actual farmer, and he sells out every single week. Nobody else does. They're not really selling. So it's more than go to a farmer's market. It's go
yeah,
and find the farmer.
yeah.
And I mean, you can talk to him for a minute and find out how he grew stuff and know that, wow, this is going to be, and like you say, grab something and taste it. It's going to be, you know, blow your top off.
Yeah, I try to offer as many different samples of things as we can. Something it's a little less conducive, but if I can have multiple things that people can just grab and try. My favorite thing that I hear people say is like, "Oh, I never liked this as a kid, a turnip, have a slice of a
Yep.
turnip." And it's like, "Well, try this. It's sweeter, it's juicier, it has far more of complexity than just the basic turnip that your grandmother would boil the snot out of and make you eat mashed." And even if they don't understand it, that the pleasure that they're experiencing with tasting that is directly a result of those compounds that
Yeah.
we perceive as flavor. But correct me if I'm wrong, but even though we perceive it as flavor, it's the nutrient density of the vegetable that we're eating or the
Those
fruit.
flavors are the nutrition. I mean,
Yeah.
every one of those, I've dived deep into this, but flavonoids that give us all the flavors. This is so awesome. Citrus have 90 flavonoids, 90
Wow.
different flavor components. Every single one of them, well, not everyone, almost everyone, antioxidants, they're immune system boosters, and then each one has its own little characteristic. One helps brain health, the other one is vision, the other one. And it's all of the nutritional components, it's the things we're missing. And when I did a comparison of my fruit, sent it to a lab, and I went to a conventional farm and picked their same variety,
Hmm.
exact same fruit, same day, brought them home, juiced them the same day frozen, then sent them to this lab. The conventional ones, which I'm just calling grocery store citrus, they were missing all these things. The lab analyzed 11 flavonoids. They were missing 4 of them. So that's a nutritional component that people aren't even getting. And then the ones that were there were 6, 8, 10 times lower levels. One of them was 39 times
Mm.
that. I mean, just a fraction, there was just barely anything there because they're being grown in sterile soil.
And is
That's
it true? I think John Kemp mentioned this on the interview that you did with him. But is it true that they're starting to find like negligible traces of even vitamin C in conventionally grown citrus nowadays?
Yeah, it's really sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
They tested some juice off the shelf, orange juice, and it didn't have any vitamin C in it.
Wow.
Now, the lab assured me it's really hard to test for it. As soon as light hits it,
Mm,
the vitamin C starts to break down. The other things are stable, but that one's hard to test for. But that's what everybody knows is, oh, I'm gonna get my vitamin C. But they're gonna get a lot more than that. They're gonna get 40, 50, 60 things. And you can taste them. So the same fruit that I picked to send to a lab, the first time I didn't think to taste it. And somebody told me, well, does it taste better? And I thought, well, I guess it probably does. And I tasted them and did a taste test and actually recorded it. And then somebody that was a flavor expert got me on there, recorded it also. We did it at the same time. Unbelievable difference in
mm,
flavor. And this was grapefruit that we were testing. And this was really interesting. I tasted theirs first. It's grapefruit. And I thought, no, it's okay. It tastes like grapefruit. And then I tasted mine and just boom. And it feels like the flavors and aroma are going up through the top of your head. It's an interesting sensation when there's that much of a burst of flavor. And then after I'd tasted mine, I went back and tasted the conventional piece of grapefruit and I couldn't taste it.
mm.
My taste buds were completely immersed and full of all those flavors that had come from my regenerative fruit that it almost blocked out. There just wasn't any flavor when I went back to the conventional. And think about it. That's what everybody's getting in the grocery store. You know, stuff with no flavor. They need to find a farmer.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, a good chunk of our audience are either aspiring or rookie farmers, as the podcast name would indicate, myself included, in all honesty. And so we aren't sending our produce off to a lab. We don't know which flavonoids are in our arugula, so on and so forth. So, what would be some good sort of benchmarks or things to look for if we're using taste as an indicator of nutrient density? Is it more of like, because taste can be so subjective. Some people hate arugula, other people love it. Is it more of it tastes? It's just a stronger flavor of what you should expect, or is it genuinely a more pleasant flavor? Like, is the arugula going to be nuttier and spicier, or is it going to be, is the beet going to be beetier, earthier, or is it going to, what are some things for us to look for when we're trying to
Yeah.
sort of gauge with our own stuff?
I think it's the intensity of flavors,
Mm,
and it's not necessarily. We just become kind of faked out that sweetness is the good thing. I mean, that's only been in the last couple of generations
yeah.
that people have sought out sweetness as what they desire. That just masks everything. That's why everybody salts their food so much. It masks it because there's
Mhm.
not flavor there. People are going to get, and when they try your produce or anybody that's growing truly in restored soil, those microbes are contributing so much stuff. They're going to get flavors they've never tasted before. They're going to get aromas. I just think intensity, all of those flavors, they might get 5 or 6 different sensations instead of it's just bitter or just this or that.
Mhm.
So flavor it's the ultimate indicator. I've said it before that, I mean, you can spend a lot of money to send things out and get them analyzed, or you can use one of the best measurement tools ever created. It's the human tongue.
Yeah.
I mean, you can sense all of those different. Um, you are literally measuring flavonoids, carotenoids, all these phytoalexins, all the things that are good for you.
And
It's
if
a,
you have a
it's
child, let them tell you because they will also be extremely brutally honest if they like it or not.
and when people feed nutrient dense food to their children,
Mhm.
chances are a lot better they're going to like it. I mean, they just do. There's something there. And I think people are going to be amazed if they feed things that they think might have a bitter taste, broccoli or arugula or the turnips or whatever. And I think they're going to be amazed. Kids are going to like it. And there's also, I don't understand how this works, but when your body needs something, you crave it.
Mm.
And I think that's what people need, these nutritions, and therefore it's going to be favorable to them. There's so many new incredible stories of animals that are taken, like great stories. One is a guy that had always fed watermelons to his hogs, and somebody gave him a leftover watermelon crop, the pollinators that you don't sell, they're full of seeds. And he had them in the back of a pickup truck, and he was driving past the hog yard, and the hogs started running after the truck. And then we put them out on this concrete pad. They ate every single bit, seeds, rind. And the hog farmer came to the guy that had brought the produce. He said, "What in the world was that?" He said, "I've been raising these hogs for 20 years. I've never seen them run
Mm.
before.
Mm.
They can smell it. They can smell
Yeah.
nutrition." I've heard that same story over and over again, that a guy will have a field with his cattle and all these big round bales of hay, and the cattle aren't interested. And they bring one bale that's been grown regeneratively, and the entire herd comes and crowds around that one bale. They
Wow.
can smell it. They know it. We've probably lost all those senses, in the last 50 or 100 years, that we can sense the things that we need, the nutrition that we need, like animals can. I love hearing those stories, and there's so many, and that's compelling to me to keep doing what I'm doing and what you're doing. It's what we need. We need nutrition, and we gotta think about it. We are in the most intense health crisis that this country's ever had, and that's everybody has all these conditions, and there's a good chance that a lot of them are simply due to nutritional deficiencies. I would even say the majority of them.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand, and this will kind of tie things back into the regenerative side of things, that even sort of large scale certified organic produce or food in general does not seem to be nearly as nutrient dense as even something that's grown, in soil that, in living soil with
Yeah.
people that are taking care of it. Because essentially, I've seen it, I've witnessed it myself, that, some of these organic operations are essentially doing everything practically the same that a large, fully conventional operation is doing, but they're subtracting ammonia-based nitrogen for chicken manure, or they're using X instead of Y. But more or less the practices of sort of depleting the soil, seeing it far more extractive than actually regenerative. Have you experienced the same thing, that it has far more to do with the actual practices we're doing and less about the black and white of chemicals versus no chemicals?
So to me, organic is a great first step. And I think everybody ought to be eating organic, but I just think it's an entire stair step. You're right. Organic, and to get certified organic, which I did, I thought, well, that's kind of a requirement. And then I got certified regenerative
Mm.
by AGW, A Greener World is the certification I have. And they're completely different. Organic is what you don't do. It's
Exactly.
just nothing synthetic on that crop. So no synthetic fertilizer, in general, no synthetic pesticides. And that's basically the foundation. So yeah, you're a lot better off with organic food. And it doesn't necessarily have to be certified. If you go and buy from a farmer and he says, yeah, it's organically grown, and then trust him
Mm.
that it is to his best ability. But you hit it exactly right. That's just a first step. All that does is, by not using those synthetics, it allows the life to get restored in the soil. So if somebody's truly regenerative, not only are they, I mean, sometimes regenerative people call ourselves microbe farmers. I mean, I
Yeah.
literally inoculate with microbes. I feed the microbes regularly. So I fertilize the tree, and then I fertilize the microbes every 2 weeks. It's tree, microbes, tree, microbes. And so even during the wintertime, when my Trees don't need fertilizing. I feed the microbes. I mean, they get, it's seaweed and fish hydrolysate and humic acid, fulvic acid, long chain carbons, which, molasses is the well-known one. I mean, you can put sugar out
Hmm.
for irrigation and feed the microbes so inexpensively. I mean, I got a microscope and then I can look at the soil and see how alive it is. There's some real simple tests that you can do and see what you can just do them right on your farm and see what the level of life is. I was lucky because my background was research, I applied for some research grants and actually the first one I got was the DNA company, Biomakers. And so for 4 years, I was able to send in samples and I grew some trees conventionally to compare them to
Mm.
regenerative. And so I sent in the soil samples every year and got the DNA results back. And I could literally see the soil kind of dying in the conventional. Any fungal life, the beneficial fungal life that was there, eventually by year 3 was completely wiped out by whatever fungicides and the Roundup that I
Wow.
was using. I mean, you could see it in the results. I was floored. I had no idea that it was going to be that profound. And at the same time, the life in my regenerative plots in those soil just kept increasing and increasing. A lot of beneficial stuff, a lot of diversity. I mean, we're all afraid of the idea that there's bacteria and fungi, but 90% of them are all beneficial,
Mm.
and they're doing great things. And when the populations are high, they outcompete and they defend against diseases. I have no disease anywhere in my grove. And no, I found a tree last week that had gummosis. So I was really surprised. Out of 1,300 trees, I had one. But everything is so healthy, and the farmers around me are having to spray fungicides all the time and copper. I still have a couple of oddball insects that are there, and I have to watch for them and treat them. But one of them, it's a leaf miner, and it's invasive, which means it came from another country. There's no natural enemies,
Mm.
so I'm real careful, try not to harm the beneficials. But this thing has no control, so I
Their
have to.
only natural enemy is Herb Young.
That's
And
well, I wish I was better at it, but yeah. So, oh goodness, I put out some concoctions to control them. And there's some really neat things. There's some awesome biological. I put out a fungus that grows inside the tree and
Mm.
then consumes the insects when they feed on that leaf. It's
Wow.
it's really neat. So there's some good things, some incredible things that we do. That's a lot of the new technology that's
Gotcha.
it's taken off that we can use.
And I find it really similar to sort of past life. Was an aspiring brewer, and you think back to like old, German beer purity laws, where it's like, all right, you need hops and you need water and you need grain, and there's like there's nothing written about it. And you need the yeast. You need that living biological aspect of it, because it was more of like, well, we don't know why, but we keep mixing it with the same wooden spoon and the same, vessel and the same wooden building. And what they're not realizing is like the wooden beams and the spoon and the barrels are inoculated with the yeast, and that's
Absolutely,
what's
they are. Yep.
doing that. And so I love what you're saying, how it's like things like compost and just all of the various things that have been done for millennia.
Yeah.
Now we're able to quantify them and say, all right, so there's X, Y, and Z that is happening in the compost. So now we can maybe isolate that, or we can encourage those particular things so that we can then take this compost from being good to then great. Yeah, that's really cool. That's really exciting to see the future of that. Before we dive too far down this rabbit hole, that I want to go as far down this rabbit hole in the time that we have left that we can. Words like organic, regenerative, no-till, sustainable, or all of these different things. Obviously, there are some certifications that sort of keep those words meaning what they mean, but they oftentimes get thrown around. But for you, I guess, as a certified regenerative grower, but then also as someone who really seems like you've made this part of your life's work about this. How do you define regenerative?
Yeah. No, that's the ultimate question. To me, it's pretty simple. It's restoring an ecosystem in the soil that supports plant life, the plants growing there, and the end result of it is healthier crop that impacts human health. Now, you can accomplish that in a lot of different ways. You can bring animals onto the land,
Mm,
and ruminant animals, fantastic to adding all the life back into the soil, and all these systems of rotational grazing, and moving a herd every day, and then birds follow that and take out the grubs and the negative. So there's lots of ways of accomplishing that. But I mean, in my case, the quickest and simplest was to add some of these microbes and then feed them, which is, to me, it's compost and algae and seaweed. I do those things to feed the microbes. So, and I'm always looking for, make compost tea. I've got
mm.
these brewers, and I'm just doing as much as I can to bring that soil back into closer to a natural state. And I'm amazed that I see it's supporting the tree. One of the neatest things that was convincing to me is I met a guy that had a penetrometer. It's a steel rod with a pressure gauge on the top of it, and you push it down into the soil. And he had this little video of him doing it in his garden versus around it. And I thought, man, you immediately know what's going on down in that soil. And so I got one, and in the soil between the rows, not in a track, but it goes 3 or 4 inches into the ground. And then I go over to my trees, and now there's places in my grove with one hand with almost no pressure. I
Wow.
can put it 3 feet into the ground. It's the ground, you feel it when you walk on the rows where the irrigation comes and feeds those microbes. The ground is spongy. It's incredible. And it's a combination of everything. It's tree roots and cover crop roots, but it's the microbes that are aerating and thriving in that soil. And you can feel it. And you can put that penetrometer and just push it right into the ground, anywhere where you're between trees. It's really neat to realize, okay, these things have contributed and made that happen. So
So it really is, it's this wonderful dance of, using mechanical ways, whether it's like a broad fork or,
sure,
roots themselves penetrating deeper, or it's things like the photosynthetic activity happening in the soil. And then it's also biological. It's this wonderful dance of
yeah,
these different things sort of commingling and cohabitating together, all sort of playing off of one another. One benefits one and the other supplements the other, and so on and so forth.
that song, "The Circle of Life,"
Yeah.
good Lion King thing. That's what it is. It's the circle of life, and those micro. People are telling me, we think it's minerals. You fertilize better. That's why you got nutrient dense fruit. No, I mean, you can put all the minerals down that you want. A good fertilizer's got the raw minerals in there, and then that fruit's not nutrient dense. I tested it, and there's very little, if any, nutrition in it. So it's the microbes then take those minerals, or they go out and find them and dissolve them and bring them, and then they convert them internally into enzymes and hormones and all of these phytoplant chemicals, and then they're feeding the plant. There's enough tests now that you can see the differences. For me, all this was my research back.
Yeah.
I spent 25 years doing it in the field, and so we sort of had this motto that if you can't prove it, if you can't replicate it, then don't even talk about it. So I just took that to my farm, which probably now drives me crazy. Anytime I have a question, I don't just put out a little spot and test it. I replicate it 3 or 4 times and put it
Yeah.
in different spots. I've got a variety that won't grow. And so I'm taking 15 rows and I'm doing something completely different to each one of those 15 to see. I'm waiting for something to kick in to make it overcome. So I was working on that today, putting out these different treatments, everything from wood chips to compost to some different organic fertilizers and a heavy algae treatment and then a ground cover on one. So I'm looking for something to wake up this variety. So everything isn't always perfect. I have failures, and I'm sure you do on your farm. You can't.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah. Why did same fertility? My grapefruit trees explode. They just love it. And then here's this shiranui, and they will not grow. I do
Yeah.
not know why. Yeah.
So you mentioned all of these different experiments, and some of them are more kind of carbon based. We're adding compost, we're adding wood chips. Some of them are more amendment based. Some of them are more biological. Would you say, if you were, say, you're coming to my farm and you're keep doing a consult with me, is there a hierarchy of needs, so to speak, from a regenerative context? Is it, let's make sure your soils are balanced from a, an agronomy perspective, and then let's ensure that, we are getting the micronutrients right for your plants through foliar applications or compost teas, and then it's feeding the microbes? Or is it completely reversed? Or like, is there a sort of a step by step, or a pyramid of importance when it comes to
You,
growing regenerative,
yeah,
fruits and soils?
everybody's going to approach it differently. And I have lost my faith in the fertility side of it. People say, well, how many soil tests you done? I don't do any soil tests. I don't believe in the results. And so I would start with biology.
Mm,
And I mean, that's, to me, that's the heart and soul of regenerative. Yeah, if your pH gets way out of whack, or if you've got, some toxicity from something, yeah, those are going to be obstacles. But most obstacles, good biology can overcome. So if I came to your farm, I would do it. I would go out there with a shovel. I mean, I may have a pH meter with me in my pocket. I do my whole farm. Check the pH, in about 20 places. I walk around the 5 acres and make sure that I'm in range, and that allows everything else to work. But that's not my biggest thing. So, I mean, with that shovel, digging up, and you start seeing stuff. Are there some earthworms there?
mhm.
How dense is are the roots? I mean, do you have cover crops? Heaven forbid, don't let soil go uncovered.
Yeah.
Um, and whether I mean, it could be wood chips or it could be mulch, could be compost, but keep it covered. That's you're giving habitat to the microbes, keeps the water in, the temperature down. I monitor my soil temperature because I don't want it getting above 85 degrees. It kills the microbes.
Mm,
Spend too much time taking care of them. So
yeah.
if it starts to get that high, the water comes on and and cool things down. So that's what I would do. I don't even think I would ask you about your fertility program. I'd be more interested if got a concoction of compost tea. And it doesn't matter to me if people are making it in a 5-gallon bucket. I mean, there's so many cool things to do now. Fill a bucket with weeds and water and throw in a couple of tablespoons of molasses and cover it for 3 days. You can ferment and make all kinds of things. That's life. And then put that out on a row and see what happens. People might be amazed at what they can do pretty simply.
Yeah, I joked with a farmer the other day that my cover crop of choice is native seasonal grasses. Just insinuating that it's whatever's growing, it's the
It's
weeds.
whatever's
It's
growing there.
it's actually had that happen recently. I had a block that was just so overgrown, and it's like, you know what? I'm just gonna mow everything down and we're gonna tarp it. And even though, maybe those are more rhizomatous grasses and I really need to get them out of there, but it's like, but they're still photosynthesizing. They're still having some sort of a symbiotic relationship with the things in the soil, and they are still, carbon, they're organic matter. And so if that's what we have right now, then that's going to be far better than ripping everything out of the ground, root and all, and throwing it onto a pile to break down somewhere.
Yeah,
Um, and
it
yeah.
is. And maybe this is a new concept that I'm kind of fascinated with. I'm trying to figure out, but these guys that have studied weeds and say that every weed has it's trying to repair something.
Mhm.
And I thought, oh, that's a little too foo-foo for me.
Yeah.
And now I'm looking on my farm. The first 2 years, I'd have these little patches of Florida beggarweed. No, not a few Florida beggarweed, but it was the sandspurs. And then I looked it up and found out this, I think, was a calcium deficiency, and it would be in patches. And then this past year, one little area, all of a sudden, these thistles came up.
Mm.
Never seen it before. Well, it's something is deficient in that soil, and maybe that's the weed that can go down and mine. Who knows what it is? Molybdenum, or cobalt, or something is missing. So, I I spent my whole career weeds were the enemy.
Yeah.
I mean, what can I spray on that weed to kill it? I mean, that's I'm embarrassed to say that was my job. I kill insects, kill fungi, kill nematodes. That's what I was an expert at. I knew how to do it, and now I realize, man, they've all got their place. So,
Yeah,
um,
on your website, I believe it's your frequently asked questions. You have one that says, "Why do organic farms look raggedy?" And I believe that I haven't taken the time to actually look at the answer. I just had it in front of me, but I imagine that this is part of the answer to that question.
yeah, that's the answer. And we're growing cover crops. I seed 10 species of cover crop in the winter and the fall. Man, there is nothing finer than in February, March, and April walking through my grove and the clovers and the hairy vetch. Everything is 2 feet deep and it's just beautiful. And I know everything is contributing to the soil and building it. My organic matter is increasing. It's gone up. It's doubled, but in 4 years. I mean, it's a slow process, but I know what a big change that makes. Yeah,
Yeah.
raggedy doesn't bother me anymore.
Yeah,
It's
that's good. It doesn't have to be Instagram worthy, unless, or maybe we just need to change our definitions of what Instagram worthy means. But it's interesting because now you have me thinking about that, about the weeds, and what are they telling us about the soil? And I can't prove that this is what it is. This is totally conjecture. But I find it interesting that the property that we're on. So we assumed the property in 20 at the end of 23, started in the process of forming our kind of permanent no-till market garden beds, farm through 24, and then obviously now we're into 25. So I've had two springs and coming into our second summer. I never saw a single clover, never saw a single vetch. Nothing like that was popping up in the rows, in the walkways, or whatever. And this spring, it's like the vetch and the clover have just exploded. And ironically, and well, it's not ironic, this might be part of what we've been talking about, that it's like, but in my beds, what I've seen issues with is things like our kale, things with our arugula just really seem to be stunted and yellowed. And I've got this sense that I had a lack of nitrogen. And so I'm now wondering if maybe it's those nitrogen fixers, those legumes are responding to lower nitrogen levels in the soil and are trying to proliferate to then bring balance back into the soil.
it's amazing that these weed seeds are there and
Mhm.
they're dormant. They found grain seeds in the pyramids and they germinated.
Yeah.
They're thousands of years old. So those weed seeds are there, and like you say, I mean, I'm still becoming convinced whether it's they that it seems to be that they're coming up to fulfill a need to repair to bring that soil back. So if you've been on that farm for 2 years, you've got some history that
Mm.
you're probably working through, and maybe a couple of more years before something that was put out. I mean, some of the herbicides, that might have been used previously finally have a chance to break down and be gone. So, I mean, it's hard to know what the yellowing might be due to. It could be residual something that's left over in that soil.
Yeah, because we actually have a stretch on another block of beds. Funny enough, a totally different block that seems to be growing really well. It's been very productive, and even though we're beyond that 3-year mark for our certification to say like there's been nothing, no synthetic chemicals or fertilizers have been used on the property. I notice because it wasn't an individual bed, so it's not all right. This bed didn't get amended properly, or so on and so forth, but it was a strip running perpendicular across 4 or 5 beds of different species. One's a brassica, one's an allium, another
Yeah.
one is a different kind of a mustard than a brassica. In this same 10-foot section running perpendicular to where the beds are, yeah, you just see this like very stunted yellow patch running across, and that was my first thought. It's like, all right, we're still sort of breaking down. We're still dealing with these things that have been in the soil for who knows how long.
Yeah. And I mean, this is sad, but I mean, I was in that industry. They used to design herbicides that lasted for 20 or 30 years.
Wow.
And so I worked with a couple of them. And so, yeah, you could be picking up residue. I bought a batch of trees that, I don't know, 40 of a certain kind of trees. And this guy was the only person that had them. And it was a certain kind of grapefruit. And after a year in the ground, they got this bizarre yellowing, and I called it leprosy. It was awful looking. And then I lost, I think out of those 40, all but there's might be 4 or 5 left. And I know that it was some odd herbicide residual that accidentally got on those trees, the person that was growing them. So it's you're experiencing something got sprayed on that
Mm,
land. Who knows how long ago?
yeah.
Could have been 10 years ago, and your plants are picking it up still.
Now, it's all fine and grand that we can feed the soil, we can do all of these sort of things and do all of that, but the reality of it is for both yourself, myself, unless we're just independently wealthy and this is just for fun,
Right.
we're needing to turn a profit, we're needing to produce a harvest so that we can take it to market, so to speak. In that sense, if we because I've had this struggle trying to follow good no-till practices, broad forking, cover cropping, leaving roots in the ground, composting and mulching when I can, foliar feeding, inoculating, trying to check every single box. And in certain places, like some of these beds that I've mentioned, still just struggling to really produce really high quality, very prolific with plants. So, what for those of us who are doing our best to try and come to this end point of regenerating the soil so that we can hopefully produce amazing nutrient dense food for years and years to come, what would be some really good things for a person in my situation, whether it's like they're just starting and they really need to start growing something now, or they're just struggling to really have those regenerative practices take hold within their soil? What are some quicker things that we can do to really help boost the health and fertility of our soil?
Man, I wish I had a perfect answer for that. Yeah, I
I do
mean, you're
too. That's
hitting
why I'm
hard.
asking.
You keep saying hopefully, and this is where we all are.
Yeah.
Hopefully make a profit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Golly. I mean, imagine this. My trees are 4.5 years old. I mean, I don't even get harvest till the 4th year.
Yeah.
The amount of money that I poured into it, it's just un unbelievable. And then the profit, then the last year was my first year of sales, so it was year 4, and my
Well,
expenses.
sorry, not to interrupt you. I did not realize that last year was your first year of sales. So when I
Yeah,
heard you in 2022, you hadn't
um,
even had anything that you were taking to market.
no,
Yeah.
I was talking about soil as if I knew, but I'd never
Yeah.
sold anything.
Yeah. So
Didn't.
I just wanted to bring that up to point out the fact that that this is not a like we're not talking band-aids here. These are like long-term,
Y-
things that we're doing to see increase later
Yeah.
on down the road.
And I love what market gardeners are doing. And y'all are doing, you're needing to make a profit right from the start. So, I mean, I don't have an answer to that, but probably the starting with the crops that are in demand. So here was my whole strategy. I am too small to compete with big growers that have got their own crews. They had their own land. They had wells and tractors and equipment. And so I'm starting from scratch and having to buy all those things. So what I've done, my strategy has been, okay, my fruit's got to be different. And the way I'm making it, and that's why I believe that regenerative, that's to me, the part about regenerative is that people need to, they don't undervalue your crop. Sell it. It's worth more. I know regenerative produce has 3, 4, or 5 times the nutrient value. So it ought to bring double the price.
Mm.
Never apologize. I ask what's really, to be honest, a tremendous price for my fruit, but I've had it analyzed. I know, I mean, I've got it documented that it's 8 times more nutritious than grocery store fruit, than conventionally grown. So is that worth something? Yeah, that's worth a lot. So try to find the markets that appreciate that. And that market might be high end chefs,
Mhm.
or it might be a farmer's market that's more selective, that's got a clientele that's looking for health things. There are a lot of health conscious and minded people, and find ways to find those people that are Instagram and any kind of publicity that you can do. I ended up spending a lot of money on social media to try to develop an Instagram presence and LinkedIn, and it's really slow to start, and it starts to build, and then it gets momentum.
That sounds
So last,
familiar.
well, so last year was my first year, and I had no idea
Yeah.
how it was going to go. And I did Google Ads, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Facebook didn't even work for us, so we quit doing it. We paid some for those ads. We ended up shipping, I only have 7,000 pounds of fruit. I mean, that's a real small amount. Eventually, my grove could generate 200,000 pounds of fruit. So something
Yeah, that's
I shipped to 36 states.
wow.
People found out about it and were either seeking nutrient dense or health, or even some of them just say the message resonated with them. They're becoming aware of what regenerative is, and they want to support a regenerative farmer. So get a story behind what you're doing. That's what everybody ought to be doing. It's about family. It's about restoring the land. It's about doing the right thing. It's about produce that tastes better. And then the final result is it's better for us. It's nutritious. That's got to be everybody's message, and get that out there. And it costs a lot more to grow regeneratively. I'm not going to make any apologies about that. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, my labor cost. It's horrendous compared to. I've quickly kind of analyzed that compared to the conventional guys that I know and have a lot of friends. I could grow with the same amount of effort, just the labor input. I could do either 4 or 5 times the acreage that I have. So yeah, there's a cost for what I'm doing. So I believe the nutrient density is the result, and food is medicine. There's a whole tier of economic values. And I think there'd be wholesale, and then there would be retail, then there would be organic, then there would be regenerative, and then way above that is food is medicine. That's an entirely different market, and people need to learn how to make that an opportunity. What you described, that there's some compensation that people are being, Oklahoma has this incredible program that Food RX, that
Yeah.
it has changed people's lives that they've been eating regenerative food. Most of the people, I think the test was 100 people that a grant bought only regenerative food, provided it to these 100 people. The results were incredible. Most of them have gotten off of there, and it's an underprivileged group. So they're on all kinds of medications, high blood pressure, diabetes. People have lost 100 pounds. The majority of them have gone off of diabetes medications. It's just proof that good food, not just organic, but regenerative food it is medicine. It's transforming these people's lives. And I'm optimistic, and I'm hoping that maybe there's a hint of that we're going to start seeing that and see programs behind it. I say on these, I've used it as an expression on a lot of Instagram posts. Stop paying a doctor, pay a
Mm.
farmer.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of money that we spend for medical treatment, it's horrendous. People will spend thousands of dollars, tens of thousands for these medical treatments. And then they go to the grocery store and they skimp and they buy the cheapest, crummiest food that they can find. They're trying to save 50 cents on their produce when they got a bill from the doctor that was $300 because they've got all kinds of medical problems. I mean, we get the whole thing reversed. It's
Yeah.
absolutely inverted, what we need to be doing.
Yeah. The whole system really needs a full overhaul.
It's education. It really is. People, I mean, it's sad. I mean, yeah, people are kind of innocent. I mean, it's not being communicated. They're not being told. I don't believe it's a diabolical plot, but we need a lot of honesty and awareness that these problems are really serious.
Do you
Leave
have
it
any
to it.
recommendations on ways to quantify the nutrient density per food, whether it's the work that Dan Kittredge is doing? Can't remember the name of the product that he's working on. It's, or whether if it's just like a bricks test or these different things. Are there relatively low barrier to entry things? I remember you talking about the analysis that you did with your citrus and how kind of ungodly expensive it was because
Yeah.
your funding was cut at the last minute. But are there some more like realistically, even if they're expensive, but they're just a more realistic investment that
Yeah.
a grower could do to be able to say like, hey, listen, I grabbed a bunch of head of broccoli from the grocery store, and then I grabbed a head of broccoli from our farm, and I did a bricks analysis, and this is what ours is at versus that, and this is a way to quantify
I
that.
mean, that's I mean, bricks is the amount of dissolved solids.
Mhm.
Uh, so I think that's what people are missing, the comparison.
Yeah.
Go get one from the grocery store and then get yours. And I've been desperately searching for a cheaper place to do it away. And I have found a lab that I send my fruit off to. It's called Apical, spelled with an A. They're
Mhm.
in Oregon, and they do all the mineral components, and then they do percent sugar, percent protein, percent phytoalexins, all rolled together to one, and it's $85 to do that analysis. So, if somebody did it one time, whatever your signature crop is, if it's broccoli or arugula or Swiss chard, and spend, what would that be, $190, and ship them out there and compare yours with grocery store, you might be amazed if it comes back 4 or 5 times higher. When I sent my fruit off to the lab, and you're right, that story was true. The university told me, hey, go do these tests and we'll pay to have it analyzed. And I waited and waited and waited. I went and collected all the samples, froze them, juiced them, and then they finally admitted their funding fell through. And my dear wife, after waiting quite a while, she said, if you're going to do this, you better just go ahead, buck up and
Yeah.
pay for it and send the samples off and see what. I thought that maybe I was pretty confident I'm going to have a 50% increase in nutrition
Mhm.
and maybe double. When it came back, it was 8 times more
Wow.
nutrition. It's just, there was nobody more surprised than me, but it was complete vindication of everything I've
Mhm.
been doing and all the impact in the soil. That was 3 years. And I just had 2 varieties out of 10 that had any fruit. And I just thought, well, this is my first fruit. And people will be amazed, especially if they've really worked hard on their soil and it's cycling and there's life. It tastes great. Then they ought to know. Taste is another. I did a fun thing. I had some folks spending the weekend, and I said, "Hey, I want y'all to try this." And I took those two fruit, conventional and mine, and I had 4 people, and I made my own little taste panel,
Mm.
and I made them do it blind. And I said, "Can you describe this one?" And I wrote it all down. I said, "Okay, describe this one." I mean, by the end of it, I had this great set of notes that descriptions for my fruit was, wow, explosive, fantastic, you know, and you can do that. Do a blind taste test. Go to the grocery store and buy something that came from California, spent 7 days on a truck. Literally, we used to test it. It took 7 days from strawberry to get from California to the East Coast.
Wow.
How much flavor's left?
Yeah.
They said spinach is the nutrition goes down 30% in the first, it's even more than that, in the first 2 or 3 days, and it's on a truck all that time. So, how much is left?
Yeah. And just to let you know, while you've been talking, I just did a quick Google search. You can get a Brix refractometer with 75% 5-star reviews for $18.99 on Amazon.
It's right.
So
Yep,
so they're super cheap.
$18.
It's a good way to indicate the total dissolved solids. I think that comes from the wine industry, correct? Looking for sort of the solids and the sugar content in the grape.
And then even oranges in Florida, they have to be 8.5 Brix before the sugar is high enough to qualify for juice. So
Yeah.
if it's something you can juice, it's real easy. I'm doing a strawberry test for somebody, and it's real easy to squeeze that berry and get the Brix. I do Brix on leaves. That's harder. You gotta get a pair of vice grips or something that you can squeeze the juice out.
Yeah.
But yeah, do Brix, and then you can tell somebody, hey, that's dissolved solids, and mine are, 40% more than this broccoli that I got from the grocery store. There's lots of things. I think taste is a great one. I think you're doing the perfect thing. When you're sitting there at a farmer's market, have have 3 or 4 things that are cut and give people samples. Man, you're gonna make a customer for life
Yeah, for
instead.
sure.
That's
Yeah,
why these people lined up at the farmer's market in front of one booth. Nobody
yeah,
else was selling anything, and this guy had 15 people lined up.
yeah. What's the old adage? Let them try it and they'll buy it. That's what
Yeah, I
we
hadn't heard that. That's good. Yeah,
yeah,
but
and so
for sure, it's not costing you. It's not going to cost you anything. Yeah, cut up a whole bunch while you're sitting there waiting. Cut up a little bit of everything. Let people try it.
plus, I just think it creates this sense of generosity and giving back and sharing in the abundance that you have. If not to totally get off on a tangent with that, but it's like, but just being that, like, oh, I can't share, I can't let other people partake unless they give me the money in exchange. I just think it's just sort of that the spirit in which that comes from is not inviting, it's not welcoming to people. And yeah, just giving of what you have, is when you bend down and you give a little girl with her mom and dad a sugar snap pea and let her eat it. Like, regardless of the nutrient density of it, it just makes her parents happy. It makes her happy. And it's just a good all around feeling for everybody
It's
involved.
even bigger than that. It shows that you've got confidence in what
Yeah.
you're selling. You grew it,
Hmm.
and doggone, you're proud of it
Yeah.
because that, bell pepper represents your sweat and blood, and you know how good it is. Your family eats it. This is the saddest thing I've ever heard is that a lot of the row crop farmers in the Midwest all have organic farm gardens because they know what's sprayed on the crops, and they
Wow.
don't want their family eating what comes from the grocery store. So
Yeah.
the
It's
parents,
it's like the social media executives who don't give their kids smartphones.
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people that make them won't let their kids use them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should be giving away a little bit of. I mean, holy smoke! If it meant you sold out of everything you brought to the farmer's market, and
Hmm.
yeah, cut up a bunch of stuff and have a little table there for people to be able to try. It proves that you believe in it, and you're going to have people going. wow, this is unreal. And then people walking by are going to go, really? You can taste the difference? I mean,
Mhm.
you're liable to have an avalanche effect. Yeah.
Well, Herb, I want to help you be able to recoup all of your investment in insane costs for analysis and testing and all of that sort of stuff. And I think one of the unique things about your product versus most of the other growers that I have on here is that you do have the ability to ship. Obviously, you said
Yeah.
36 states. And depending on when this episode comes out, it may actually end up being closer to when you have product available. So if someone wanted to actually get to experience everything that you've talked about
Yeah.
today, how could someone get their hands on your sweet squeeze citrus?
Sure. Yeah. We ship everything through the website, and it's just squeezecitrus.com. And our season it's really probably November 15th is when it starts and only goes for 90 days. So middle of November to middle of February is when we would, dependent on making it. So, and then if somebody logs into the website, one of the first things they're said, hey, if you want to be updated about when
Mhm.
varieties become available, just sign up for our email, our newsletter. And so, I mean, it's real easy. Once a month, we send out something saying, "Hey, this is about what's about to happen." So, and then they just order off the website. And like I said, we ship all over the country. It's amazing to me. Yes, citrus is perfect. It doesn't. I had from one of these tests, I had a bunch of grapefruit still in my refrigerator, and I pulled out one and I looked on the date. It was 100. It'd been in there for 100 days. Was delicious.
It's
It
wonderful.
it was fantastic. Yeah, citrus is a great crop. It ships, it's not perishable. I actually worry because it's November, December, January. I send it to, Washington and Montana and Wisconsin. I worry about it freezing in the
In the
UPS
truck,
truck
yeah.
more than anything else. That really could happen. So that's more of a risk. But now it's easy to ship and it stays. And then when people get it, it stays fresh for a long time. 100 days in the refrigerator, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a one of the biggest compliments that I get, other than just your stuff tastes great, especially with like things like lettuce mix, is customers will say it lasts so long in the fridge. I've had customers telling me that like a cut, washed, spun, and packed bag of lettuce that usually they buy it on a Saturday. It got harvested Friday morning. People are getting 2, 3, sometimes even 3.5, 4 weeks of perfectly good lettuce. I had a restaurant that told me they got over a month of like you know, good enough quality to be able to put it on a plate and send it out the kitchen.
And that,
And yeah,
again, that's all the things that are in it. It's the nutrient density are the same things that preserve that crop and keep it. Everything is better. The cellular structure, all the cytoplasm, all the things that are in there. Yeah, it does. It lasts longer, and it didn't have to get shipped around the country, or sadly enough, brought in from Brazil, or Australia, or Chile, like so much of our produce. It's almost sad the the transportation that we bought a case of water and looked at it, and it came from Italy,
yeah,
and thinking, really, we paid for this water to be shipped by boat from Italy to America, and I bought it at Costco. It's a little crazy.
yeah. One of the questions I always ask my growers, and I'm definitely springing this on you last minute, but answer to the best of your ability. But one thing I always ask is what growers or what people, they don't have to necessarily be farmers, but what people would be on your farming Mount Rushmore?
Yeah. On the top of Mount Rushmore for me would be John Kemp. I
Hmm.
mean, I've gotten to meet him, and he's humble and brilliant, insightful about understanding plants. Jonathan Lundgren, who's involved in this movement and trying to document over 1,000 farms to make this comparison. The same kind of stuff that I'm doing on my little farm, he's trying to do with 1,000 farms. And he came up through USDA in the industry.
Mhm.
He's a giant. All these people, I listened to so many of them podcasts that people had big influence on me being won over
Mhm.
to Regenerative. Lane Ingham, Christine Jones, Matt Powers,
Yeah.
some of those folks. They're just, I mean, get on one of those podcasts. Graham Sate, a lot of them are Australians. They just way ahead of us on this. Start listening to those podcasts. Oh my goodness. It's an education. While you're working, while you're driving, it's unbelievable how much you can learn doing that.
Yeah, and once you've exhausted all those catalogs, and if you still need something to listen to, you can listen to the Rookie Farmer podcast.
Absolutely.
Those guys are all in my rotation. I listen to all of them. Yeah, they're extremely wonderful. And the reason why I asked that question is because sometimes we get a lot of similar answers, sometimes we get a lot of unique people, and I think it just to see who is influencing the people who are doing it now, I think it gives us who are still learning, and hopefully we're all still learning, it gives us an opportunity to go seek out those people who have made big
Yeah.
waves in the
Yeah.
space, and we can equally be as impacted by them as you have been.
Yeah.
Well, Herb, thank you so much. Been a wonderful conversation. We only got to like half of my questions, so
Yeah. It's been,
it was really
been a lot of
really
fun.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay. Take care. Good luck to everybody.
Yep. Another fantastic episode in the bag. Big thanks to Herb for sitting down and talking with me. I could do 3, 4, or 5 episodes just nerding out about food density, about market schemes. There's a whole conversation that I was hoping that we could have about sort of the marketing strategy, and we just didn't get a chance to go into all of the details on that. Herb is an amazing wealth of knowledge, and I hope that we can talk again soon. So thank you, Herb, so much if you're listening to this, for sitting down and humbling our nice little podcast with all of your knowledge and all of your experience. And once again, a huge thanks to Diego and the whole team over at Modern Grower. None of this would be possible. The podcast that you're listening to, the YouTube video that you're watching, none of this would be getting to you if it wasn't for the work that they were doing over there. So big thanks to them. And with that being said, like always, if you need things like row cover, pre-cut landscape fabric, if you need the paper pot transplanter system, Jang seeders, quick hoops, all of the amazing things that they sell over at Modern Grower, then please go over to shop.moderngrower.com and you can find an excellently curated list of products and seeds for microgreens that will ensure that you can grow far into the winter season, or you can have protection in the summer months. You can block out weeds, or you can just ensure that things are irrigated or seeded and transplanted precisely. The tools in the kit that are sold by Modern Grower are not just a huge plethora of different things for all different contexts. This is sort of curated for the market gardener. This is curated for you. This is curated for me. And it's what makes the show possible. So please go over to shop.moderngrower.com. Check out the kit. Check out all the tools that are over there. I use them every single day, and I know many other growers do as well. And you can support the show by getting those as well. And as always, just a reminder that we believe in value for value. Me and Modern Grower and everyone who's a part of this want to ensure that this can stay free to anyone who listens. That's why that there's no premium content. That's why there's no paywall. There's no play to pay. You're not bombarded with tons of ads targeted specifically to you every single time. And that means that this takes a level of finances to make it happen. So if you find value in the content that you're getting from the Rookie Farmer podcast or from our social media, please consider supporting the show by kicking back some of that value our way in the form of a donation. I have to take time away from the farm to do this. I have to buy gear, cameras and microphones and computers to make this happen. And that requires a little bit of cash. So if you believe in what we're doing and it has impacted you, please consider helping impact what we do by making the show by kicking us a donation. You can send us $1, $5, $10, whatever you feel like the show is worth. You can give at Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. Just look for Crop Culture Farm or at Crop Culture Farm and support the show. We greatly appreciate it. And thank you in advance. All right. Another episode in the bag. I'm going to go pick some squash because I'm swimming in it this time of year. So thank you for watching. I am your host, Alec Smith, and you've been listening to the Rookie Farmer Podcast. Until next time, blessings and peace.